Now, the budget, as we talk about it as a singular document, has different component parts to it. And I think it's important to understand that because you're hearing some dialogue in the press, somewhat in the community, about the role of special districts. So let me try to put this in some perspective, if you don't mind. The general fund for Westchester County is the portion of the budget, the operating portion of the budget, that funds all of the different operating departments. Ken just went through some of the highlights based on some policy areas. But it's within that general budget of $2.5 billion that we fund our Westchester County Department of Public Safety, which is our county police, our Department of Corrections, which is where we have our penitentiary and our county jail, our Department of Probation, Department of Health, Department of Mental Health, Parks, Recreation, and so forth. In that general fund budget, there are different revenue streams, one of which is property taxes. And it is the property tax revenue stream that we have held stable now for the last 2 years. We have not raised general fund county property taxes over the last 2 years. In the 4 prior years, we cut the general fund property tax levy. So for the last 6 years, there's been no increase in general fund property taxes, and in fact, a decrease. You have less taxation, general fund taxation today than you had 6 years ago today, and that's a fact. Now, what does that represent? That $2.5 billion general fund is roughly 90% of all of the elements that are dealt with in this budget. There are special districts that fall into 3 categories that make up the remaining 10%. $89 million for our refuse district. That is a singular district that includes most, but not all, of Westchester County's municipalities. Various sewer districts, which total $155 million, and those sewer districts are based on different geographic combinations. It generally follows the flow of rivers by which we take our refuse, take our water sewage, and we put them into sewer treatment plants, 7 of them around Westchester County, and treat them before we put them out into either the Long Island Sound or into the Hudson River. And then $26 million for various water districts. But it's important to know that when you look at all of this stuff, what is the aggregate impact of those special districts? It's roughly 10% of the totality of the money that's spent in county government. If you put it all together, it's about a $2.8 billion operation. $2.5 billion of it is in the general fund, 90% of it, 10% of it in the special district. What's also important to know is that not every resident of Westchester County is in a special district. Those special district targeted services, refuse, sewerage, and water, are in certain parts of the county, but not universal. If you are a resident of Bedford, if you're a resident of North Salem, if you're a resident of Pound Ridge, if you're a resident of Lewisboro, you are not part of any special district. When you pay county property taxes, all you have to be concerned about is the county property tax itself. When you look at some of the other of those special districts, we have a number of water districts in Westchester County, but the water districts that are included in this budget do not include New Rochelle, they do not include Peekskill, Rye City, Rybrook, Portchester, Ossining, Pelham, and a host of other communities where different utilities provide water not provided through the county. So whatever increase there is in the water district's budget is no impact to the people who live in New Rochelle, Peekskill, Rye, Rybrook, Portchester, and so forth. We have sewer districts that cover a large portion of the county, but they don't cover the totality of the county, and in some cases, they cover parts of communities. I've mentioned already that 4 communities are not at all in the sewer districts: North Salem, Lewisboro, Pound Ridge, and Bedford. Most of North Castle is not in a sewer district. The hamlets of Armonk and Banksville are not part of a sewer district. Most of Somers, with a small exception along Route 6, is not part of a sewer district. Most of Yorktown, the southern 2/3 of Yorktown, are not part of a sewer district. The village of Buchanan, the hamlet of Verplank, the hamlet of Montrose, not part of a sewer district. So when someone says, well, the special district costs are going up, they don't apply to those communities I've just mentioned. And it is true that those services are provided in other ways in those communities, but the impact of the decisions that were made this week by the Board of Legislators and what we're signing into law are not funded for those services in those communities. So they are not impacted by whatever changes we make in those special districts. If the special districts in general represent about 10% of the total of all of this, what does that mean in real-world terms to you? If you live in what I would call an average house in Westchester, and there's no average house, there's a wide range of properties, and depending on where you live will depend on the assessment roll in that community. There's a state equalization rate that applies that tries to equalize what a house in Bronxville looks like and represents in wealth to the exact same similar house if we're in the city of Mount Vernon. That's a very hard process to equalize, but the state does that process, and it changes the value and the impact of taxation from community to community. But in general, if you're in an average home and you pay $3,000 in your county property tax bill, you'll know by the end of the year, you'll get either a printout if you're paying a mortgage, you'll get a printout from your municipality, it'll show you your city, your school district taxes, your county taxes, then if you're in any special district, what the totality of taxes you paid that year is, or you will see that as part of your normal mortgage payment, and your mortgage company will inform them how much of your taxes that you paid. That's part of your filing your annual taxes on April 15th. But if you pay $3,000 and you're in these different special districts, you probably pay in the aggregate about $300 in the special districts. So if we have frozen, which we have, the general fund money, that means the $3,000 you pay has not gone up. It's still only $3,000. That's a much larger amount. The smaller amount of $300 has gone up in a range where at the low end you would pay $15 more a year for the impact of all of those special districts if you're in the district. The high end of that impact, probably maybe $20 on the low end. The high end impact, $50 more a year. So when someone says the special districts are going up, what does that mean? It means a very small impact on your budget. And when you consider, if you're making a mortgage payment, you're making a monthly payment, whatever increase there may be, you divide that out by the 12 months of the year. A $20 increase over the course of 12 months is less than $2 a month. A $50, which is the high-end increase that's been estimated for a person in a special district, a $50 increase is $4 more a month that you're paying. Your basic property tax bill for the county hasn't changed, and you might have as much as a $4 a month increase to the special districts. Why is that? Because each special district, particularly the sewer districts, have different assets. The level of improvement that's needed in the Yonkers wastewater treatment plant, its size, its scope, its service level, is completely different from the Blind Brook wastewater treatment plant located in the city of Rye. If you live in Rye Brook, or most of the section of Rye, a small section of Harrison or Mamaroneck, your sewage is treated by the Blind Brook sewer treatment plant. If you live in Yonkers and along the Sawmill River corridor, which will take you up into northern Westchester in the area of Chappaqua, your sewage goes through the Yonkers wastewater treatment plant. It's different for everyone, and this system was created years ago. What we've tried to do overall, over the course of these last 6 years, is to try to do everything we can to keep your property taxes down, and that's what this budget has done. It is frozen for the last 2 years, reduced over the prior 4 years, over these 6 years. And we have, to the greater extent, kept the special district costs down as well. We've had some increase this year, but when you look at the absolute number of dollars of it, it's a very small amount. Somewhere between $20 to $50 for that portion of the population that are in those districts. And I've just indicated how many people, how many communities are not in those districts. So it's important for you to understand this. It is details that are in the weeds, but you have a choice. And the choice is you look at a set of factors and you understand them and you know what it represents, or you take information that you get off the internet unvetted and you let that draw your judgment as to what we've done. This is a complicated budget. It takes a lot of very intelligent people to work very hard over a long period of time. We owe a debt of gratitude to Joan McDonald, our Director of Operations, to Emily Saltzman, our Deputy Director of Operations, to Larry Sewell, our Budget Director, and as part of the process, Karen Hablow, who's our Finance Director. Every single commissioner of every single department, many of whom worked for county government before my administration began, have contributed their professional experience in doing this. Consider that the county budget is completed now, adopted by the board, soon to be signed into law, on time, balanced, and will undergo any scrutiny that comes from state control or any other source and from the bond rating agencies based in Wall Street. And they will look at these decisions and say, these were sound business decisions. These weren't political decisions made to satisfy the need of the moment. Because I assure you, a year from today, you'll want the same result in taxes, and you want the same result the year after that. Very hard to do. You see the way costs have risen in your life. They've risen in running a county government and the complexity of doing the things that we do, from running parks to running sewer treatment plants. Very complicated level of government. But this budget is on time, it's balanced, and to the greater extent, it freezes your property taxes for the 6th straight year. That's an accomplishment.